What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Denver Sports Coffee Break presented by Bath Fitter. Rachel V. Hunt, D-Mac hanging with you. D-Mac, not good, my friend. Things were not good in Seattle last night, but I just want to say I deserve my coffee. I've called it 2 games in a row that I wasn't feeling good about the Avs or the score line, and yet I still have no coffee. Like, what is going on here?
I don't know, Rachel. Who owes you?
Will Peterson and James Merlatt both owe me coffee.
Oh, all right. Take
I know.
receipt. I'll call them out by name. I got your back on that. Scrappy Will and Jimmy. What the hell's going on, boys?
Where's my coffee? I didn't feel good about the game last night, and I obviously it started off real bad. We can get into that. Then Mikko Rantanen comes out, balls out, and then we go into OT, and I just didn't have a good feeling about OT. I didn't think things were looking good, and unfortunately, I was right. What was your biggest takeaway from the game last night?
God, there was so much. First of all, it's only the second time since 1918 that a team has allowed the first goal in 4 straight Stanley Cup playoff games. How about that? Second, Nathan MacKinnon, who dominated in game 3, Rachel, didn't get off a shot. Didn't get a shot off. So great for Mikko, fine, but not a shot. Cale Makar is having a hearing today with the NHL Player Safety Department where he may get suspended for a game because of his hit on McCann, who is their top scorer.
Yep.
McCann, I thought the hit on McCann was cheap and dirty. I know there's a lot of other people out there defending Cale. I know Cale said he wasn't sure where the puck was. I'm not buying it.
Really? Whoa. We need to stick on this because yes, there was a little initial like, I'm gonna shoulder tap you kind of thing or shoulder check you, but I didn't think it was that dirty, D-Mac.
Yeah, he didn't have the puck and he's close to the board and you put his head off the glass, and the reason why McCann would have let up and not protected himself that much was because of all those things. There wasn't a play to be had. I mean, I understand in a fight you're supposed to protect yourself at all time, and perhaps you could say the same about going in the corner, but you go in the corner, Rachel, without a puck. These guys are such skill skaters. It's easy to turn away. It's not that difficult, and although it happened fast, there was time. I think Cale lost his lid for some reason. Don't forget the Avalanche were on a power play, and they had just allowed a short-handed opportunity, so there's an element of frustration. It was earlier in the series that they allowed another shorthanded goal, and the Avs were second in the league in shorthanded goals allowed, second in terms of a good thing. Like they had not allowed shorthanded goals. I think there's a lot of frustration going on with the team, and unfortunately, that penalty led to a power play goal, which gave the Kraken a 2-0 lead. Yeah, the Avs fought back, but like Bednar said after the game, we got to thank Georgiev for standing on his head. I mean, they were, at the end of the day, completely dominated. And then in overtime, Josh Manson, who has drawn, I think that might have been his 4th penalty drawn, is diving at a dude on a breakaway. And the refs don't want to call penalties, Rachel. They don't. They don't want to call them in the third. They don't want to call them in overtime. But, I mean, you had to. Yeah. He did a Superman dive at that dude's feet, and then they scored a power play goal, and you lose. So what happened to the Avs deservedly should have happened to them. They got outplayed. They fought hard to get back into it, which was cool. But then again, I don't know if you deserve to win a game in which you get dominated like that.
First of all, the entire first period, I literally was like, why are we spending all of our energy just sitting here hugging the Kraken? And I know I had made a TikTok and everybody was like, oh my gosh, hugging, like that's so funny. Literally, that's what it felt like was going on. It was a giant hug fest of anger. And I was like, why are we putting so much energy out there when you're down 2-0? And I get it. Hockey's physical. Hockey gets aggressive. There are fights in hockey. But I'm like, this team should be more disciplined. Like, it was ridiculous the amount of times we saw pushing and shoving D-Mac. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, because the Avalanche are not producing effective offense because they're getting 0 contributions from anybody else except for the stars on their team.
Yep.
And now, I mean, it's bad enough with Nichushkin being gone for,
Which we do have an update.
What? Give me an update.
We do have an update that there was a alcohol-related incident Friday night, and that Jared Bednar believes that it would be unbelievable if he returns this season. Or this series, excuse me. This series, let me clarify that.
Who's reporting that?
Jared Bednar spoke with Altitude Sports Radio this morning.
Huh. Interesting.
Yep.
Okay. Wow. So say that again. So he was on Altitude Radio, I assume.
Yep, and he said the unbelievable part. And then there was a podcast, I don't know the name of the podcast, I do apologize, that spoke about the alcohol-related incident.
Was the alcohol-related incident limited to just Val, or were there other people involved?
We do not know. Frank Saravalli, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, hockey insider and president of hockey content for Daily Face-Off, and a Bally Sports contributor, put that out.
Okay, let's do some math here. Wait, he said Friday?
Friday night.
That doesn't make any sense, because Nichushkin, that actually does not make sense. I saw Nichushkin Saturday morning. He was with the team.
That's just what's being.
Wait, hold on. I gotta think of.
I'm gonna clean this up just for a second, guys. So it's Frank Cervelli, who's a really accredited hockey journalist for Sportsnet in Canada, who is a league broadcasting partner in Canada. This is the quote from his podcast, The Daily Face-Off, like Rachel said. I've been working on this story as well. This is a tough one because you're starting to blur the lines of personal and what part of it should be public. And I think there's something that we're all kind of sifting through. My sense here is that there was an alcohol-related incident that occurred, and I don't know what the next steps are. I don't know what the depth of it is, but it's clear that something happened at the team hotel on Friday night that necessitated the Colorado Avalanche to get involved.
Okay,
Thanks for reading that quote, Jake.
That's literally wrong, because they weren't there. Wait, I gotta do some math here. Okay, Friday night. No. I'm sorry. I'm wrong. You're right. I'm sorry. They left Friday afternoon. My bad. Mm-hmm. So that makes sense. Okay. So, right. Because I saw Val Friday morning. I talked to Bednar Friday before they left, and he's saying something happened Friday night. Okay.
We have no idea when he went to the airport and was taken by security or anything of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, but now, guys, we have to do some math. Now we have to do some. So Bednar, this is good now. What we can go off of what Bednar's saying. So Bednar confirmed, and boy, I'm going to go back to you again, Rachel, on this. Bednar confirmed there was an alcohol incident on Friday night.
That I don't know.
Okay.
We do not know. We just know that he said it would be unbelievable if he returned this series.
Okay, but what did Bednar say about alcohol or anything like that? Nothing.
Nothing to my nature.
Okay, so Bednar just said on Altitude Radio it'd be unlikely if he were to return this series.
Yes.
And this Frank Cervelli guy is saying that he thinks there was an alcohol sort of incident on Friday night at the team hotel.
Correct.
Okay.
There's no way that the head coach is going to come out and say something like that. If he did, I would give major props to the PR people over there. But yeah, it's very interesting, and they're getting a lot of criticism of, hey, we want to know more, and I can see the personal line that you're trying to do, but again, it's just like things are going in directions of multiple ways that it's like, all right, give us something, otherwise minds are just going to run.
Well, clearly the path we're going. So when I see Kyle Keefe and say thoughts and prayers to Valerie Nichushkin, I mean, that insinuates last night on the broadcast like something's wrong with the family member. But what we're hearing from this sort of reporting is that this is a personal issue with Val. This is something personal with Val. And not that you can't offer, I suppose, thoughts and prayers with something on a personal level.
Yeah.
But why then, guys, hold on. Why then is he being flown out of town if this is some sort of alcohol issue on Friday night, according to this one guy, Frank Cervelli, and Bednar says he's unlikely to come back? Guys, let's do some logical thinking here. Why the hell is he leaving? Why isn't he just being taken back to Denver? Why doesn't he just stay with the team? Where is he? And what exactly was that incident that led to his departure in such a rushed way just hours before puck drop. But now we're getting to the heart of the issue. And now it makes more sense when Nathan MacKinnon says there's bigger issues, I guess. Because if there's a personal problem in your life with a relative or something like that, you're not saying I guess.
Yeah.
But if you're doing something else yourself to yourself that would harm the team, that explains what Nathan MacKinnon says. So we're sort of seeing some things slowly come together here based on what Bednar says in this podcast, if we are to believe what this guy is saying on the podcast.
It still leaves a lot of questions that need to be answered, or we can hope will be answered, but it's just, we're getting small tidbits. And I know people are very concerned about Val Nichushkin, so we definitely want to keep everybody up to date. And of course, we'll do that at denversports.com too. But we still have so many questions. And did we learn last night that they absolutely need Nichushkin back in order to possibly win this series, or, if they do escape this series, which I think is going to be harder than a lot of people thought, to move forward?
Well, I'll take it back to hockey. You have Gabriel Landeskog announcing that he's gone right before the series started, although we are seeing him on skates. Then you have your other one of your top guys who, looks like is being irresponsible in terms of these reports, okay? You can kind of and you don't have anybody else scoring on the team besides Mikko Rantanen and Nathan MacKinnon.
Yep.
And now Cale Makar may get suspended, or something might happen to Cale Makar because of a hit he put on McCann. Now it explains why Jared Bednar repeatedly, Rachel, has said this is a different team than last year. And now a lot of things are sort of making sense. It makes sense why they're just kind of off their game at the beginning of games. They're scrapping and clawing to come back. Bednar says he doesn't think Nichushkin could be back. I mean, there's 3 potential games left, Rachel. Yeah. I mean, that is a week's worth of time if you play it out the whole way. Yeah, now we're getting into hockey reasons. And I think the public deserves more answers, to be honest with you, because they put their heart and soul, they put their faith in this team. If Nichushkin has done something that he solely is responsible for, I do think the public deserves to know that. It's not just a personal family sort of reason. It's a responsibility reason. And, it's that bad. The issue is that bad. Where is he, Rachel? Why do they have to get him out of town? Okay? Why is it just not, hey, you got to sleep it off, and hey, you get back for the next game or something like that? You got to get him out of town. Mm-hmm. He's got to leave under a cloud of secrecy. Fascinating. I mean, the story just gets more interesting as you give me more news.
I know. And the other thing that a lot of people I can see in the comments are talking about is Makar, and if he is to get suspended with his meeting today after he talks with the NHL. I don't know if he'll get suspended. I don't know what they're going to see there. I would be surprised, at least from what I saw. But again, DMAC, you just said a few moments ago that you indeed thought it was a dirty play.
I did. I think he just lost his mind for a split second. I don't think Cale's a dirty player. No. But I think there's all sorts of ways he could have pulled up on that hit. I think he just got frustrated for a second. But it's a dangerous thing, Rachel, to hit a guy along the boards, especially when it concerns the upper body that could, head issues. Makar after the game said he wasn't trying to hurt anybody. He didn't mean to do it. He doesn't have a history of something like that. So, yeah, Cale's a great guy, and he's not a dirty player. Mm-hmm. I think he just, he lost a little focus, and it was a dirty, in my opinion, a dirty play, not a dirty player. But, these are things you get suspended for. And, there's, depending on your history, depends on the severity of things. They were going to call a major penalty on it initially. They looked at it. They called it a minor penalty for interference. Mm-hmm. So I was surprised that it actually went to the NHL player and safety review at all, because they actually reversed a major penalty to a minor penalty during the game.
Yep.
So I was caught by surprise they're reviewing it. It seems hard to believe that they would review it and there's not some sort of consequence.
It's true. I was shocked when I saw the news come across this morning, too, that it was getting reviewed. Was it Gabriel Landeskog last playoffs that ended up having a play reviewed?
Oh, gosh, Rachel.
I know. I think it was. Jake, I double-checked that for me because I believe Gabriel Landeskog last year had to end up meeting with the NHL player safety. I can't remember, though.
Well, I mean, there's certainly been players over the years with the Avalanche that have had to do it. You easily could be right on that. Stuff happens. It doesn't mean you're a dirty player or a bad person or anything like that. In the heat of battle, sometimes things happen. But, allowing a shorthanded opportunity in a game that you were already losing 1-0 is absolutely some frustration there. So you got to keep a cooler head, man. And they did battle back. They did tie the game. And Kale's a incredibly valuable person, obviously. But
let's play the what if game. Let's play the what if game, DMAC. If Nichushkin's not available and Makar would get suspended, is there any chance they win Game 5?
Sure, absolutely. You still have
positivity.
You still have Georgiev who can stand on his head. The Kraken, while obviously a better team than we were giving them credit for, no doubt about it. Listen, it's tough to win on the road, and you still have Rantanen and McKinnon and Taves and other good players, and not a lot of other good players. And Jared Bednar really only rolled 3 lines in the third period in overtime. He's telling you we don't have that good of a player. He's giving you the skinny. In terms of adjustments you can make on defense if you don't have Makar, I think, I don't know the health of Jack Johnson, but
can we talk about that too?
Yeah, I mean, Jack Johnson, theoretically, I think they would call up Brad Hunt, who's ready to go, and maybe it's not crazy they play Curtis McDermott, which I thought would be literally insane. The other thing they could do, Rachel, that actually, no, they couldn't go 11-7 either. Now they're in kind of a pickle here, Rach.
Yeah.
I mean, this is I guess without Makar, what they would do is they would go Taves, Byram on the first defensive line, and Gerard, I guess Eric Johnson, and then Brad Hunt and Josh Manson, I guess.
Josh Manson just feels like such a liability. Is it 2 goals or is it 3 goals now that they've scored on a penalty that he's caused?
That's a great question. I know it was the game winner last night.
And there was a game in game 1.
I think there was at least one other, too. The guy was just missing for a lot of games. It was questionable, really. Should he play at all? He had a terrible game 1 where Bednar said he looked rusty. Mm-hmm. They were going to bench Eric Johnson until Jack Johnson got hurt in warmups.
Yep.
I mean, Rachel, I don't know, man. I mean, maybe last year was a team of destiny. The destiny for this team is cloudy at best. I mean, man, the hockey gods are telling you they don't want the Avs to repeat.
Oh, I 100% agree. I'm not even sure that they're going to get out of the first round. And people are going to be mad at me for that because, yes, the Avalanche did have a solid second half of the regular season, I would say, but it just doesn't feel like things are adding up, DMAC, and it's tough. And the Kraken, you got to give them credit because they came with a game plan and they stuck to it, and look at how things have worked out for them.
Well, they're a younger team, obviously, in terms of the organization. What they're really doing is they're really defensively clogging up the passing lanes.
Yeah.
And because of that, everything is getting muddled. This is where you need Nichushkin. This is where you need bigger bodies to just sort of separate, get in the way, and get to the front of the net. Yep. You really, really, really miss Nichushkin in these circumstances. Nieto is a bigger guy, but he's just not as talented as Val. The end. And they've moved Mikko down to the second line to get some juice going. And you got Lek. I mean, you could get a performance like something special could happen from Lehkonen, who's been a clutch performer, and he's on the first line with McKinnon. Maybe Malgin can add something. But you go deeper than that, Rach, what else is there? So losing Nichushkin and losing Kale? So you don't have Nichushkin or Makar maybe in the next game? I don't know. I don't care if the game's at home. That is going to be rough rough sledding without those guys.
It's going to be tough. Tonight, though, there is a game down at Ball Arena between the Timberwolves and the Nuggets, and hopefully the Nuggets can put it away in 5. We'll bring in Jake Shapiro because, of course, he's our Denver Nuggets guy. Jake, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little nervous, and nobody seems to be talking about it because I know it was such a big conversation for so long. But Jamal Murray's knee, his facial expressions are just getting me. When they're showing him on a one shot and he's, jogging down the court and he's got this I'm in a little bit of pain, but it's time to play through it. And then, of course, you see him icing his knee on the sideline. I'm a little more concerned just because the fact that they are having to play another game. Like, we were hoping for it in 4. We were hoping for just a sweep. But I'm starting to be a little bit worried that the more deep we get into this playoff run, the more it's going to affect him.
It would have been nice to rest Jamal Murray's hand, his thumb, not his knee. His knee is fine. And by the way, today is the first day there is nobody on the Denver Nuggets injury report all season, including, I guess Colin Gillespie's ineligible, but they have not been this healthy all year. They're the healthiest they've been right now. Now, what we learned from the Avalanche last year is it's best to get through the playoffs in as few games as possible because it limits the chances for injury. But if you win a playoff series in 5, you've pretty much done that. I'm confident in Jamal, and I think any injury he suffers at this point, barring it being devastatingly significant, he is going to play through, and he'll be pretty effective because that's the kind of player he is.
And I'm 100% with you, D-Mac. We'll have you chime in just a second. But it's just the fact that he's reaching it. Or, of course, we're seeing him, step away from the team when they're in a timeout and, China trying to jog on it during certain times. There's just more and more things that I'm he's going to play through it. I 100% agree with you on that, Jake. But I'm still just a little bit worried because we just need 100% when it comes from Jamal Murray. D-Mac?
Yeah, I think the Nuggets are going to win by 25 tonight.
God, I hope so.
I think they are healthy. I think they had, unfortunately, a little mental blip in Game 4, and I'm sure they don't feel great about that. The bad habit Nuggets kind of slipped in the back door unexpectedly, and they will have no problems getting focused tonight. All these dramatic issues we have with the Avalanche right now, the Nuggets do not have whatsoever.
Yeah.
There'll be 19,000 insane Nuggets fans going crazy. They're going to shoot better. They're going to have the momentum, and there's going to be a letdown by the Timberwolves, who are lucky to win one game. Unless Anthony Edwards, the Ant-Man, can go for 72 points tonight and will them to some sort of bizarre victory. Other than that, these guys will be toast. The Nuggets win relatively easily. And then, I don't know about the Suns, which likely they're going to play. And that team looks tough, really tough.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not worried about tonight. I think we'll forget that they played the Timberwolves. As time goes on, it'll be like, who is that? What was that? It'll be sort of like that. And I think we have a much more memorable series and hopefully several more series coming up. But I am not worried about tonight.
No, I'm not worried about tonight either. I think they're going to get it done. I think what you said, it was like a blimp come, 2 nights ago now? I think they're going to get it done tonight, Jake.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Nuggets won this game by 20 or 30 just going away. This is going to be, I expect a massacre tonight, to be honest with you guys. And the reason is it's not only a mentality thing. If you break this down, the Wolves actually suffered a significant injury in the last game. I know Kyle Anderson right now is a punching bag, quite literally, and a joke to everybody, but he's a good player, and he's also the Wolves' backup center. They are very thin at center, which doesn't make much sense for a team who starts 2 all-star centers, but they're thin there. They don't have a backup center now. And Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns have been in foul trouble every single game of this series. There's a good chance the Denver Nuggets can get the Timberwolves to a point in this game where they literally do not have anyone on the floor over 6'7", and that's just layups for everybody, including Nikola Jokic. So I think the Nuggets are in a really good spot. I think the Wolves found some stuff that finally works for them in the last game. Ultimately, the Nuggets still win that game. If Nikola Jokic's free throw is 1 inch left or 1 inch right. It doesn't even matter. Mike Conley doesn't. The bank isn't open on Mike for Mike Conley on Sunday like it is for everybody else, Or Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr. hit a couple shots they normally hit, even on a night that's not going well. So I'm not at all worried about where the Nuggets are. I don't think they lack a killer instinct or anything. I think they had a poor shooting night, and that happens in the NBA. And because of the awesome regular season you had, you've afforded yourself 2 opportunities to lock this series up at home. And if you do so tonight, and if the Suns do so tonight, we're talking about Suns Nuggets all the way up till Saturday when that tips off in game 1. And that's the thing that we've all been looking for. And that's going to be one of the best series of the postseason.
Oh, I'm 100% with you. If you're the Timberwolves tonight, though, what's your game plan coming into Ball Arena? Is it just to attack Jokic at every possible point?
My
yeah,
game
go
plan
ahead.
Cabo. If I'm the
That's what I thought for game 4, but here we go. Wolves in 7, right?
you play for pride at home, in front of friends and family and all that. I mean, you do try. Don't forget the Nuggets beat Golden State in game 4 to avoid a sweep last year at home. It happens, like Jake says. I think Jake's right. I think they just lost a little focus, lost a little intensity, and had a bad shooting night.
Mhm.
That's it. And they got beat in the paint, they got beat in rebounding, so there were some effort issues as well. That really gets helped a lot, guys, when you're playing at home in front of 19,000 people. It's amazing what focus, adrenaline. I do think Malone doesn't need to make some rotation changes. I think Flacco should play a little bit rather than Jeff Green, and very specifically because for shooting reasons, Green's been terrible, and Vlaco will be open for wide open threes if he plays at least 4 times. I mean, I'm not talking sort of open, I mean wide open. And I would just rather have Vlaco take wide open threes than Jeff Green. Defensively, he's not as strong. I mean, I get it, but you would be stunned if you had 4 open looks at threes and hit 2 of them. It's really crazy what a difference that makes when a guy off the bench can do that. And right now, I have no faith that Jeff Green can actually do that.
Yeah, I think the recipe for the Wolves is pretty simple, Rachel. You mentioned it. Attack Jokic. Get Jokic into foul trouble. The whole reason why the Nuggets didn't win 2 nights ago was because Nikola Jokic picked up 2 fouls very early in that game. 2 really soft foul calls. The Nuggets put their defense into zone, and it takes the Nuggets completely out of rhythm for the entire first half. They changed their rotations. They changed the way they're playing defense. They changed the way they're getting out and running. Everything changes. So if the Wolves can put Jokic into foul trouble, it does change things. But I'm looking at the Crayola Box crew to step up a little bit more tonight. I'm looking at Jamal Murray to have a bounce back game. I'm looking at Michael Porter Jr. to get a little bit more involved.
Yeah.
And, this is going to be something that we talk about the entire Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. era. It's not something that's just going to be a blip on game 4. It's, are we using MPJ enough? Are we using MPJ too much? Because this is what happens when you have a lot of great players. It's just a balancing act, and it's a tough balancing act. They didn't get MPJ the ball enough in overtime, certainly. But this isn't necessarily a Malone didn't draw up plays for Mike. This is his teammates need to get him more involved. And when they are face guarding Michael Porter Jr., and what that means is they're really trying to prevent him from shooting and running him off the 3-point line in a game like game 4, he's cutting, he's getting to the basket, he's doing these things. And then all of a sudden the Nuggets stopped using that. He was an amazing finisher in that game, and I don't know why that stopped being involved in their game plan, vice versa for the 2-man game. So there's definitely some things the Nuggets need to work on. But the series against the Wolves is completely different than the Suns series will be, both from a talent perspective, how the teams play, the stars on the other team, who is even the best player in that series. But going back to what you originally said, Rachel, and what D-Mac said, what were the Wolves thinking in game 4? I'm telling you, Josh Minot and Nathan Knight were absolutely pissed they had to delay their flights to Cabo for another day. Those are the guys at the end of the Wolves bench.
I would be too. Jake, real quick, walk us through the scenario of what happens with Suns and Clippers for the game to start Saturday versus Sunday, correct?
Mm,
Simple enough. Nuggets win tonight. They
mm.
start at 7. Suns start at 8. If the Suns win tonight and win their series 4-1, and the Nuggets win their series 4-1, we will start that series, Nuggets Suns, Saturday night at Ball Arena. And yes, the first round will still be going on for some teams. I think there'll be a couple game sevens. So you potentially could get like an ABC game 7 in the afternoon, and then like Nuggets Suns like later that night or something like that.
Why do they do that? And I know some people like it and some people hate it, but like I need round 1 to finish and then we can start round 2. I hate when there's like overlapping. It seems very unfair.
Like a
Well,
team like the Sixers could be waiting 10 days if you don't overlap.
wow.
Yeah,
Right.
that
Fair
is
point.
crazy.
Fair point. And listen, they want to put games on TV. Period. So we can put games on TV. We're just going to put games on TV. If it means a dramatic wait at some point for one team, they actually don't care.
Mm-hmm.
What they care about is playoff basketball on TV. The rest of it, figure it out. So if that does happen, it's Tuesday here. They win on Tuesday. The Avalanche play on Wednesday. Then we'd have an off day on Thursday, no action. We've had quite a few days of playoff action in a row. So Thursday would be off. Friday would be in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday would be in Denver for the Nuggets, and possibly a game 7 Sunday back in Colorado with the Avalanche. So it looks like we get one day of a break, depending on how things go. But we could be just as loaded this week as we were last week.
Seriously.
And thankfully to the Broncos not drafting in the first round, we actually get a true break from Denver sports on Thursday.
Can I give you something ironic? The one day on the calendar that there's nothing going on and there won't be anything going on is Thursday, the first day of the NFL draft.
Yep.
So the timing is, not that the Broncos are picking then, but the timing is actually bizarrely fantastic if the Broncos were to have had a pick. So
real quick, I just saw this comment from Wes, and he says, put Watson on Ant. I'm curious to hear both of your reactions to that, Jake.
Peyton Watson is going to be important at some point in this playoff run. I think he'll be important for a possession or two, kind of the way DeAndre Jordan has been used for the Nuggets. Not an extended part of the Nuggets bench, not really part of the rotation, but used situationally. Peyton Watson, I think, is a great defender. He's a point of attack guy who's going to get up in his face, and he's big enough to guard Ant. I don't know if he's strong enough at this point in his young career to do that. But Peyton Watson, I think, is more designed to be used in the Suns series, which is why we saw him used twice at the end of the regular season against the Suns, because they have 3 separate points of attack in Paul, Durant, and Booker. So I'd be surprised to see Watson in a meaningful situation tonight. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in a meaningful situation against the Suns. I think the Nuggets have the perfect defender for Anthony Edwards. His name is Christian Brown. For some reason, the Nuggets don't use him more, and for some reason, when he's on the floor, he hasn't been the primary defender on Ant. But there has been something we haven't talked about all series, which is KCP is a Georgia guy. Ant is a Georgia guy. They are close. He calls him his little brother. So KCP has wanted to guard Ant. And I think they've allowed some runway there because they trust KCP. And then honestly, KCP is a great defender. And if Anthony Edwards is going to go for 45 points and the Wolves are going to lose, the Nuggets will take that every time. It doesn't matter how much he scores.
Yeah, I don't even care about that. You could put a mosquito net on Anthony Edwards and he's going to average 32 points. He's going to get his, as the saying goes. And, kind of whatever. What you need to do is basically be disciplined on your end of things and don't allow somebody else to go off. And really, who else for the Wolves is about to go off, aside from Gobert in the paint? Towns has been terrible. He's been absolutely meaningless. And then, Anderson, or I don't know, there's just other dudes. This is not that complicated, okay? They kept they kept the Wolves under control in game 1, and Anthony Edwards, I think in game 1 still had 30 something points. Okay, so it's fine. It's not that big of a deal until you get near the end of the game, where of course now it kind of matters. Now you got to get a stop, and they did actually get a stop against Anthony Edwards, and it was KCP who stole the ball from Anthony Edwards when it mattered the most. So I'm not that concerned about it because I think they can turn up the heat when they need to on Anthony Edwards. I think you just got to make sure everybody else is doing their jobs, and you'll be fine. And when they're up by, they'll be up by 15 at the break. They'll be up by 25 midway through the third quarter, and we'll all be sitting here, like wondering if Jokic is going to go in when they're up 30 in the fourth. I really do think it's as simple as that tonight. But I guess I could be wrong. I've been wrong about other things, at least in the Avalanche series. But teams do lose games in the playoffs, guys. Sweeping a team in the NBA is not easy to do. How many sweeps were there in the first round? One, I think.
Yeah.
One.
And by the way, it only happened with the team that traded all of its players away and wouldn't have made the playoffs had that trade happened before the season.
D-Mac, real quick, if you just had to give
Rachel, you won't need any popcorn tonight. You won't be nervous. It'll be fun, and it should be a good time. The team to be nervous about right now, clearly, is the Avalanche. And if you remember me saying on Coffee Break, right as the season was ending, I did say I've changed. I am more nervous about the Avalanche than the Nuggets. That was a switch because of how desperate the Avalanche seemed to be to win the Central. I mean, overly desperate. Now I kind of get it.
Nope. Real quick, if you just had to give a guess for tomorrow night's Avalanche game, what would your score prediction be?
I'm terrified to do that. I'll say 5. No. I'll say 4-3 Avalanche.
It changes, Jake. Who knew?
You thought I was going 5-2. I added up to 7 though. I got it to 7.
So 7's the number. It's not actually 5-2. It's just 7.
I'll go 4-3 Avs and a real tight one, guys. A real tight one. And I mean, the trend is they get down and they have to fight back. So keep going.
We'll see. All right. Well, we are looking forward to tonight's game down at Bell Arena. All three of us will be down there, of course, bringing you all the best coverage that you can get. But let's talk about Coach Prime because, Jake, there is some negative stuff going around in Boulder right now, and I know you are the person to give us all the latest details.
Yeah, I need to read Sean Keeler's article in the Denver Post. He talked to a couple guys that are transferring out of the program. Essentially, the Buffs are going to start the year with 15 or fewer guys left over from their team from this past year, which makes a lot of sense. When you go 1-11, you want to turn over the roster. But yesterday they lost their leading rusher, their leading receiver, and their second leading receiver, all three of whom were Pac-12 proven and good players. Those were not the problems. And, you can go 1-11 and you can still have some good parts. The Charlotte Hornets were absolutely terrible this year. But I'm sure if you asked any Nuggets fans, they'd rather have LaMelo Ball than Colin Gillespie on their bench. They're good parts on bad teams. And from what I've come to understand, and from not reading between the lines of just listening to what Deion Sanders has said with, "You're not Louis, hit the portal," Deion Sanders, after the spring game, told Buffs players who were returning players and not Deion's guys to get out of the program. Very bluntly this time. He has been very evident of saying, we would like you to hit the portal, and if not, we're going to make sure you're going to be really part of our program. Well, a lot of these guys that are hitting the portal now decided to stick it out. A couple of them earned their numbers and earned Deion Sanders' respect. A couple of them were good players for the Buffs in the past, including the best player in the spring game. And they're still being told to leave and deciding to leave. Deion Sanders can be an overall good, a net good for Colorado, and a positive. And there can still be red flags and negative things that are done. He is not beyond criticism, beyond reproach. The absolute softness of the bandwagon Buff fans that I've been dealing with in my mentions for the last 24 hours, like, you're telling me I don't know what's going on in Boulder? You're telling me, do you know what happened last year? I was crying half the season. You just made your Twitter account 6 months ago because they hired Deion. Like, give me a break. Like, this stuff is just ridiculous. And you know what? Montana Lamonius Craig, who's one of the players that left yesterday, instantly gets offers from Penn State and all these other schools. He's a good player. And he's someone that cared about the community, cared about the program, showed up at basketball games for the women and men. He cared. If you're losing those people and you really want to become a program of mercenary football players, I get it. That's the way big time college football is, but it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't need to be all that way.
I have a serious issue after reading Sean Keeler's article about their process. I think it was cruel. I think it was mean. I guess mean and cruel are the same thing. And I think it was, I think these kids and their parents and their families deserve better. If you know you're going to move on from kids and you have time to look at the program, have the heart to heart with those kids in January when they get back. Give those kids time to make adjustments so they can be on somebody's spring roster. I thought this was unbelievably mean to do it this way. And by the way, you said Dion did it, not according to Sean Keeler's article. According to Sean Keeler, was position coaches that were breaking this bad news, not Deion Sanders.
Well,
So
the directive came down from Dion. I don't know who exactly had these conversations. I'm hearing from sources left and right that there's just, things like that going on in the program, that Dion is making these wholesale changes. And to me, there's a lack of care there if you're making that. If you're telling 95% of the roster to get lost, I get it. But you should have had a kill list of 5 names or so of guys. We don't want to lose that guy. And certainly they didn't want to lose Cole Becker, who was one of the best kickers in the country last year for the Buffs, who were lousy. Yes, he's already got a job over in Utah. They replaced him with the kid from Jackson State who had 2 field goals blocked in the spring game. Yes, I agree with you. Dion is out recruiting a lot of the Buffs roster, but there were certain guys on the Buffs roster that are going to be better contributors this year and right now than the guys Dion is bringing in. And that's just simple, D-Mac. Like, you have kids that play college sports. The potential of an 18-year-old athlete might be greater than that of the 21-year-old that's already there. But generally speaking, that 21-year-old is built out and ready to go. And I get building this program for the long term as well, but we're talking about a quick rebuild. No one thinks Dion's going to be here for long. So that dude is focused on here and now. And the here and now, the reality of it, there's only a couple true freshmen in the country that are really going to be more impactful than a guy who had 500 yards in the Pac-12 last year.
Yeah, I think the reason this is happening is an absurd rush to flip a light switch without showing any modicum of loyalty to kids that you made promises to and kept them around in the spring. If you wanted to make some tough decisions and deliver bad news, I think the right thing to do is to do it in person yourself, do it to their face, and do it in January, giving those kids time to make adjustments and get to a new school. I think it's lousy how this happened, and I understand the nature of high, big time football, but I am the father of a college student who has dealt sadly with lousy college coaches. I've been through it with communication being absolutely lousy. And I read that article today and my heart broke for that player and their families. And we're not talking about lousy players. We're talking about guys that contributed. Why? I'm against it, man. And listen, I'm all for Dion. I'm all for Prime, and I'm all for the changes. Just do things the right way, dude. I mean, you want to get up there and preach about doing things right and showing up early and having a pen and paper and yes, sir, no, sir, and all that, sir. Well, what about your accountability? Where do you stand in terms of doing the right things by kids and their families? Let's not get it twisted here, guys. This is not, as much as it might seem, this is not pro sports. It's not. These kids are in school. There's education. There's families. Some of these guys, this is a lifelong dream to be there, and don't lead them on. I mean, I hate it. I hate it that there does appear to be a variety of kids who were led on only to be told after the spring game to get out of town. I really think that sucks. I think there's just much. If you want to cut everybody, fine. Do it then. Go ahead and do it. But if you do that, you may have to suffer the consequences. And this hemming and hawing, I don't like it, man. I don't like it. What you probably should have done, they didn't want to do it, is you take it on the chin for 1 year, you let it play out with more of the kids that you kept in January, and then you kind of go from there. That would be the most honest, level-headed, genuine thing to do for kids and families that have made commitments to the program. I'm not talking about backbenchers here, guys. I'm talking about kids who were prominent and made significant contributions in years past.
Fan base divided because people are saying, "Oh, I love what Dion's doing. You know what? Get the players that are going to be out there." And then, of course, the conversation we all just
Well,
had.
you
Jake,
know what? Let me just say this. Let me just say this for a second. You know what? You may want to button up your lip in terms of comments if you don't have a college athlete that's gone through something similar to this. Okay, if you weren't a college athlete or you don't have a college athlete in your family or is your son or daughter, you may really want to sort of back up a step and try to figure out if you're the right person to be commenting on stuff like this.
And let me be clear. It's nice to have Louis everywhere and have every single guy be a luxury sports car. The reality of the situation for the Colorado Buffaloes and every program not named Alabama or Ohio State is you have Louis at a couple positions, but you need Adidas, you need Nike, you
Sure.
need you need some Costco brand, and that'll get the job done. And these guys that are going aren't Louis, but there's some high quality Nike. Like there's some good guys that are leaving this program. And I understand that Dion thinks he can do better. And I disagree, D-Mac. I do think this is pro sports now. I understand that it's under the guise of amateurism still. That's a whole debate for another day. The reality is Colorado's got one of the 4 coaches in college football that matters. It's Kirby Smart, it's Nick Saban, it's Lincoln Riley, and it's Deion Sanders. And the reason Deion matters because it's NIL money, it's
Okay.
transfer portal, all that. But I talked to some people around the school yesterday, and the big number here is 85 scholarships. I do not know how the Buffs are going to get back up to 85 scholarship players next year. And that's going to be a challenge to fill out. So Dion is going to be scrounging the portal for guys who are likely less good than the ones that have just left to get back up to 85. And their first team might be really good. It might be full of Louis. But guys get hurt in college football. Guys get hurt all the time. And that second team and that line on offense and defense is gonna look really rough.
Ooh, all righty. Well, on that note, both of you, thank you so much. We will bring in Cecil Lammey because we need to talk a little bit about Aaron Rodgers, his favorite person in the world. And then, of course, the NFL draft is this week. Cecil, good morning. How are you?
Day still punching, but I'm here, and it's NFL draft week. So even with some things outside of this show that I won't talk about because they're personal, like, yeah, I'm super excited. I'm a little heartbroken, honestly, but I'm super excited about what I have to do with my job, which is tell everyone about these draft prospects.
Okay, wait. I need you to fill me in. You're a little heartbroken, you said.
No, it's personal. Death in the family. I'll tell you guys later at our meeting. But yes, I'm feeling it. But I know I have a job to do, and that's what I'm here to do.
Well, Cecil, we do apologize and send our thoughts and prayers to you and your family. And of course, thank you for taking a little bit of time this morning to hang out with us here on Coffee Break. Then I want to talk to you a little bit just about the Aaron Rodgers contract and Russell Wilson. And how bad does the Russell Wilson contract look now after we saw what the Jets have traded away for Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I mean, it was bad when it was done, even though we didn't know it was bad, right? We didn't know where Russell Wilson was at. So I'm of the mind of what does it look like going forward? Can you make it look better? Because what's done is done, right? And so many ways I could go with this. And I understand the nature of sports talk and everything, and it's the worst contract ever. Yeah, okay, fine. It's the worst trade ever. It's the worst contract ever. Whatever. I honestly really don't care about that. What I care about is can you make it look better going forward? Because, the Rodgers deal honestly should have been attached to a playoff appearance, not to 65% of the snaps. Because if you make the playoffs, then it's a first-round pick, and then it's not that much, it's in the 20s instead of being a top 10 pick potentially. Either way, like for me with Russell Wilson is like, can you be better? And the way that they can make him better is run the ball, limit what Russ is asked to do, and then make sure that offensive line is good. Stuff that they've done in free agency, which needs to continue within the draft. So is the Russell Wilson contract and trade worse than? Yes, of course. I mean, that's obvious. But for me, it's about moving forward and can you make it look not so bad? Because honestly, if you look at the structure of his contract, if he were to play up to his potential, if you were a playoff team, if you could perhaps even push for a playoff win or two, then his contract doesn't look as bad. So everything's different, right? 12 months ago, we were like, wow, what a deal. It's amazing. And now we're just like, I don't know about this. So yeah, let's see what they do this year.
Okay, well, you talk about moving forward. What about moving up? Because there's a lot of people that are talking, hey, the Broncos could move up. George Payton has said, are more likely to move down, but just say they are. And that gets people excited, of course. Oh, we're moving up, whatever, in the draft. Who could you see the Broncos eyeing that would be worth moving up and losing potentially another draft pick in order to go up?
Yeah, they need explosive playmakers on offense. They don't necessarily have that. We love Tim Patrick. He's not that explosive playmaker. We love Cortland Sutton. He's certainly not that explosive playmaker. Jerry Jeudy, we don't yet really know, how much is he going to be dialed in, especially because they're not going to just keep him a backside X, which is where it worked last year. We've gotten some clues. We're peeking through keyholes more so than ever, Rachel. And I've covered this team since 2004 as a credentialed member of the media. I've been in the media since 2003. So I've been around this team a long, long time. I've never seen it this cut off. Like, we're just cut off. We don't have access. Nobody does.
Yep.
So, and that's fine. The NFLPA and the NFL Pro Football Writers Association are like, yeah, okay, there's a certain level that we're going to get, and it's the bare minimum. So because of that, we're just peeking through keyholes. But because of that, we also have heard like some things about Jerry Jeudy not being used as primarily the number one read in this offense. Well, he's not real good when you don't. That's just the God's honest truth and what we've seen. So explosive playmakers are what you're looking for on offense, and a tight end. I would say, I don't want to say they don't like Greg Dulcich. I think that's a little too hot takey, and I'm certainly not a fan of hot takes. They are looking for, if you want to be nice, a complimentary piece to Greg Dulcich. If I want to be nice, if I'm not being nice, I'm going to say Greg Dulcich's name who's hurt a lot and doesn't really have the NFL build. And I've told the story before. I'll quickly recap it. When I'm in the Broncos locker room and they're cleaning out their lockers on the final day of the year, last day of school, and I'm just whatever around whoever, Justin Simmons' locker or something. And somebody's standing next to me. I was like, oh, who's this new reporter with really beautiful hair? And it wasn't a reporter. It was Greg Dulcich. Because Dulcich doesn't have the frame of a football player. Look at Albert Okwuegbunam. That's a Greek god. That's a football player, right? And we could talk about his play, whatever, but like, he's built like a football player. Greg Dulcich is kind of slight. He's slight in the lower body, to be sure, where he had his injury problems. And he's maybe not as large in the upper body as you would need him to be. I mean, to truly take the beating of the NFL. So that's why you move up for a Luke Musgrave, someone that they had a top 30 visit with. And I think it's important to note, when they had the visit with Luke Musgrave, I was like, wait a second, he's a first round pick. Like, what are they doing? Like, they're not even close to the first round. So if you're taking that time out, and they also talked to his teammate, Jack Coletta, who's more of a 7th round undrafted guy. He's a Taysom Hill type prospect. Did everything for the Oregon State Beavers and teammate to Luke Musgrave at Oregon State. But the fact that you're talking to Luke Musgrave means that you're getting ready. And I loved, and I say a lot of things about George Payton. I feel I just tell the truth about George Payton. That's just me. Maybe I'm way off base and he's the greatest ever, but he's had flaws. And last year's draft was pretty much awful for the players that he missed on. But I will say this about George Payton. When he said, we're preparing as if we're picking, I loved that. He was talking my language. I loved that, because the Broncos aren't just ignoring stuff. And then when you get to the 50s, oh, what? Now wake up. No, they're preparing as if something can happen. They can make a move, maybe trade at Jerry Jeudy. This isn't a great wide receiver class. And if you were to do that, what would it be for? Well, to me, it would be for an explosive playmaker and a guy like Luke Musgrave, who can do everything as a tight end.
Cecil, I'm a little disappointed. I thought I was going to be able to check something off on my bingo card, and you were going to give me the Isaiah Pacheco in there.
Well, see, I've had fans reach out to me and say, you talk about Tariq Woolen and Isaiah Pacheco too much. So I try to, it's like a Harry Potter, right? They who shall not be named. But yeah, Pacheco over any of the Montreal, Washington or whatever. And then Delarian Turner-Yell over Tariq Woolen. I mean, they have a need at corner, by the way, something we talked about yesterday on Orange and Blue today. They would not have a need at corner had they drafted Tariq Woolen in the 5th round last year. And then you'd have a 6'4", 4.2 speed corner that led the league in interceptions as a rookie in Tariq Woolen and Pat Surtain. Hey, that would be incredible for this. I could run the defense and they'd be incredible. So, like, yeah, George Payton, you done messed up, Ron. So you better get it right this time around.
Where else do you see the Broncos I don't know if I want to say making moves, but just where do you anticipate this draft going? Is it going to be more offense heavy? Is it going to be defense? Is it going to be a big mix of it? Because they don't have a lot of picks. So you're kind of limited of what you're going to do, especially if you end up trading up.
Yeah. Yeah. And trading up would mean Jerry Judy's gone, most likely. Again, it's not a great wide receiver class. So if they were to do that, I would say it would be primarily for, Jerry Judy getting that first round pick or whatever if someone gets desperate. Because again, you're going to look at this wide receiver class and go like, I don't really want many of these guys.
Okay, so
And with those picks,
I was going to say that's
Go
my
ahead.
question. Who is desperate enough to do that for Jerry Judy?
oh, geez, there's a few teams out there. I would have said Baltimore before they added Odell Beckham Jr. because they always seem to be the team that's like needs wide receiver help the most. So I could go down their rosters, but I'll say this: I believe of the Broncos' 5 picks, 3 of them are offense.
Okay.
And 2 on defense. Now, offense is running back, tight end, offensive line. That's what they're going to pick. And on defense, it's edge and corner. And if it was me, I might go edge and edge. So, like, that's something where, okay, yeah. The need at edge is larger than people think because Randy Gregory's hurt all the time.
Yep.
And Baron Browning, I know Derek Wolf got mad at me when I said this, which is fine. He's got his opinion. I've got mine. Baron Browning, who I like, who I had as my number 50 player when he came out. So when they got him in the 3rd round, I was over the moon. It's a tremendous value. But right now, Baron Browning's Malik Reed. We don't need Baron Browning to be Malik Reed. We need Baron Browning to be Shaq Barrett, if he can. And I'm not sure that he can. And I can't go on, and I know the arguments on the other side, like what Derek was saying, like, well, they didn't use him, and now it's dedicated. And okay, that's fine. But did we see the flashes, specifically after Randy Gregory was hurt and the Bradley Chubb trade? Did we see the flashes? No. God, no. And I love Baron Browning.
Yeah.
So, again, I can go on my heart or I can tell me what my eyes are seeing. And my eyes are seeing someone that might have peaked in Baron Browning. And I hope I'm wrong, and I hope he leads the league in sacks or whatever. But, like, right now, you can't have too many edge rushers. It was one of the blessings of Super Bowl 50. It's like you were bringing Shane Ray and Shaq Barrett off the bench. Think about that. You're a guy that got 18 sacks like the next year and a first-round pass rusher. I think Shane gets a bad rap because of that wrist injury, but like a first-round pass rusher was coming off the bench. So if you can bring those waves, George Payton talks about that. They don't have any waves. I mean, their waves, they're not crashing anything. Randy Gregory's fine. He's going to play 10 games. So you got to be ready for those other 7 games that he's not going to be there.
Shaq Barrett, the CSU Ram ties. I feel that. I love that man over there. Cecil, who or what names can you give us that the Broncos could actually get for somebody who can be an impact at edge?
At edge, yeah. Well, now I'm going to start talking about my heart. Rachel, do you want me to talk about my heart? I know my heart is broken, but
your heart.
Okay, I love King Felix from Kansas State. Now, Felix Anudike Uzoma is his name, and I'm not sure he'll be there at 67, but he's the type of player that's going to get pushed down. This is a tremendous edge class, and I wrote about it at denversports.com. We're seeing 6 players go in the first round at edge, and King Felix will be probably on the borderline of that. So you're pushing him down somewhere around the 40s, I would believe, where King Felix were to go. But I love his game because he doesn't stop. He has that constant motor. And one of the great things about Shaq Barrett, this is the Shaq Barrett show, CSU represent. One of the great things about Shaq Barrett is that he didn't quit. He didn't stop. He was a forced fumble specialist. Ask any New Mexico fan from that New Mexico Bowl where he had like 4 forced fumbles or whatever. But like, that's what he did. He just didn't quit. He didn't stop. You were tired. He wasn't. And that's what King Felix is. Andre Carter, also from Army, who I feel, again, one of those borderline, I hope, and the Senior Bowl might have ruined it for the Broncos because there were questions about Andre Carter, who's 6'6", 270, has a wingspan of like a 7-footer. Tremendous. And played at Army. So before the Senior Bowl, there were question marks about level of competition. Like, okay, he's beating up guys that'll never play in the league. But when he went to the Senior Bowl, he played against the best seniors in the nation, and he looked as dominant as he did on film at Army. He's disciplined, obviously, being at West Point, and he's a player that just has tremendous upside and hunger as a pass rusher. And one of the things that I always look for is, can they stack moves? Guys can have a move. You can have a rip. You can have a swim.
Mhm.
But can you stack that with a spin? Do you have a stutter step? Can you go power to speed? Guy like Andre Carter, guys like King Felix, they can do all of that. This class is so packed, they will be pushed down. So if the Broncos, be ready to move up, because edge, if there's any need, and I don't really think they have like a glaring need, but if there's any need that's under the radar for some, I think it is edge, because they can't really get by with what they have. They need more.
Okay, going back to the Wildcats real quick. I'm blanking on his name. Who's their running back?
Deuce Vaughn.
Ah, there he is. I could not think of his name. Where do you think he's going to go? Because he was so much fun to watch last season.
Yeah. And I would love the Broncos to get him,
Oh,
honestly.
me too.
Now, I don't know if the Broncos have interest. Nobody knows. But they have been looking at explosive backs. They have been looking at receiving exclusively almost backs, like a Tank Bigsby, who had the top 30 visit with from Auburn. Like Tank Bigsby, his name's Tank, but he's not a power player at all. He's mainly a receiver, mainly a player in space, slasher, right? So Tyjae Spears, who they look at from Tulane, he is maybe an Alvin Kamara type. And Alvin Kamara was a 3rd-round pick. And Sean Payton, by the way, didn't like Alvin Kamara. That was a Mickey Loomis pick. So, where does George Payton rank in that? How much is Sean Payton going to have his fingerprints, et cetera? That's a different conversation. But Deuce Vaughn's probably a 5th or 6th round pick. And there's some Darren Sproles to his game, another Kansas State player. And there is the capability. And I appreciate when smaller backs, compact backs, are inside-out runners. And I'll explain that. You can't take everything to the corner store. One of the reasons that I appreciated Philip Lindsay's game is that even though he's a little guy and he wasn't a pile pusher at all, he would take it in. So he'd fight inside, he'd get to the linebacker level, then he'd break outside. You can't take it to the corner store. And a lot of college backs, even if they are of proper size, they just get the ball and they just run to the corner. Well, you're not going to beat that speed and the discipline in the NFL. So you have to be an inside-out runner. So go inside, bust it outside, and then turn on the jets. And I believe Deuce Vaughn can do that. And he'd be a fine pick for the Broncos if they want to pick a running back on day 3.
Okay, well, I love to hear. Yeah, I had a blast watching him last season for sure. Cecil, of course, we love having you. Thank you so much. And we will definitely be connecting with you if you're around for the rest of the week, because obviously it's the biggest week, and I know it's your favorite week as well.
The dreams that I have about this week, I cannot tell you. This is Christmas, and Christmas. 3 days in a row.
You love to hear it. All right. Well, that is going to do it for Coffee Break today. Of course, we will be back tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. for another episode. Huge thank you to DMAC, Jake, and Cecil, of course, for hopping on. And we will see you guys tomorrow morning. Have a wonderful Tuesday, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye.